So your approach, you tend to focus a lot of your energy on the sun and the moon when you're looking at the charts and understanding the evolutionary process?
Basically, the basic idea, as I'll talk about in the workshop, and I've worked with clients for 25 years, is the basic idea is this: is the
Okay.
moon is kind of like the seed or the
Yeah.
acorn, and the sun is the flowering or the blossoming into our spiritual potential. And then the nodes of the moon are the gardening. So in my format, you had the seed, the moon, the gardening, the nodes of the moon, and the sun, the awakening into our spiritual potential. Now, it's not just the moon nodes and sun. It's more complicated. It's everything going on with them, aspects, rulership, the whole shebang. Um, and that forms what I call the chart skeleton. And then everything else is hanging around the skeleton, kind of the padding of the muscles and the tendons and all the rest is the rest of the chart. But to me, that is the core.
The core, the sun, the
Yeah.
moon, and the nodes.
And that is about maturation from the spiritual childhood, the moon, the early stages of development in this process of awakening or evolution into our present potential in the present incarnation. So the moon is assumed to be inherited. Bring an evolutionary approach is what's been organized, consolidated, attachments, identity from the past at a personality level. And then a lot of that simply needs to mature. We need to grow into the promise of the sun. I see the sun, um, as a developmental process to get there, to get the fruits ripen. This is what occurred to me early on in my studies, is that a lot of people I found said things like, "Oh, I'm a Capricorn sun, but I don't identify with it," or
Right.
Sagittarius, or whatever it is. And I could say the same thing too. I'm a Cancer sun, but you know what? That doesn't really capture. I identify much more with Leo. I've always been very Leonine, but I see that I'm growing into Cancer and being more emotion focused, more heartfelt. And I saw this with a lot of clients, and a lot of people would say everyone seemed to be like their moon, and everyone seems to be growing into their sun. And that's the basic idea that is part of this approach. So the sun's a depiction of the potential ripening and the fruits that might be there, but we have to grow into it. And for me, growing into Cancer, becoming more emotionally attuned, a counselor, bringing in focus on self-love, on emotional processing, really is um, really quite important in not only my own life, but in my work, is that evolutionary growth.
Interesting, interesting. And so during our workshop, which again, for those just tuning in, is on Saturday, November 16th at 10 a.m. Eastern Time. Again, it's an online workshop, so anyone can join. And so during the workshop, you're going to teach us your approach. Is that the process that you're going to take us through?
Well, there's going to be two parts. There's going to be the lecture part, which is the presentation of all of the material, and I've been developing this for 25 years now, since the late 90s, and and I've written books on it. So it's directly from my work, and I've done it many times. And so, and then part two will be after a break, applying it uh to all the participants charts, and depending on how many people show up is how much time per chart. I've been really kind of adept at going quickly and doing them in 5 or 10 minute chunks, or I can sit with a
Oh,
client for 2 hours and
nice.
talk more in depth about this. So
Yeah.
so I'm flexible. I've been doing this a while. So whoever shows up, however many people, we will apply to your chart.